So good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to the Pasteur Network community. Welcome to this new Pasteur Network monthly seminar. Thanks a lot for being here. I'm Hisham, the coordinator of the Pasteur Network monthly seminar. As always, we will kick things off with our speakers, followed by a Q&A session. Feel free to drop your questions in the chat or ask them out loud during the Q&A session. Just a quick reminder, please, to keep your microphone and camera off during the seminar to help everything run smoothly. The seminar is recorded, so it will be shared soon with our community on the Pasteur Network YouTube channel and also on the Hive platform. Today's topic is developing partnerships to bolster the antimicrobial resistance ecosystem, the role of the Global Antibiotic Research and Development Partnership, GARDP. And for that, we are very pleased to have with us our speaker, François Franceschi, Head of Asset Evaluation and Development and Serious Bacterial Infection, and Project Leader at the Global Antibiotic Research and Development Partnership. François Franceschi has over 25 years of experience in antimicrobial research and development. He previously served as Program Officer for Therapeutics Development, Antibacterial and Antifungal at the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases, NE8, in USA. Here, he also served as NE8 liaison to CARB-X and as member of its Scientific and Milestones Review Board. François has held various director positions within antimicrobial R&D such as RIB Pharmaceutical, now Melinta Therapeutics. François was previously also principal investigator at the Max Planck Institute of Molecular Genetics in Germany, where his research focused on the structure and function of ribosome, especially in complex with antibiotics. His group was a pivotal group part of international consortium head by Ada Yonath, who won the Nobel Prize in Chemistry in 2009. François earned his PhD in chemistry at the Freie University Berlin in Germany, after being awarded his bachelor degree in biology at Universidad Simón Bolívar in Venezuela. Now I'm happy to leave the floor to François, who will present us the Global Antibiotics Research and Development Partnership and its role in the development of partnership to bolster the antimicrobial resistance ecosystem, and I will come back for the Q&A session. So François, the floor is yours. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for the invitation. And it's a pleasure to be here with all of you. And so I'm going to try to, in broad strokes, say what GARDP is trying to do to fight antimicrobial resistance. I just advance my slides. Okay, let me just put my pointer. 1 second. There we are. So I guess a lot of you know this, but I mean, there was an important paper published now a couple of years ago where they were looking at the death caused by antimicrobial resistance. And as you can see here in this graphic, the deaths that are associated with AMR or the ones that are directly caused by AMR is more people now dying from that than from HIV or malaria combined. Also, the other thing is that after the antibiotics were introduced in you know, when they were in the 1930s, 40s, they have helped extend the life expectancy by about 23 years. But now antibiotic resistance is causing will cause life expectancy to drop by almost 2 years by 2035 if we don't get better at this. The other very important thing to understand why this is also so difficult is because most developers have exited the antibiotic market or they have been struggling really badly. So most of the pharma that was working actively in R&D for antibiotics, as you can see here in the top, they have left completely the field and they are doing nothing with respect to antibiotics. And then most of the antibiotic development nowadays is happening at very small companies. And I mean, just as a sample, all of these companies here, somehow they have got an antibiotic approved or they have partnered with a bigger company. and all of them have gone either bankrupt or have completely undergo significant restructuring, where most of the times they have lost all the R&D capabilities. So it's kind of a dire situation because the economic model for producing new antibiotics is essentially not there. And then the other very important thing for GARDP is access. And just to point out the fact that, for example, from the 12, only 12 of the 25 antibiotics that have been entered in the market since 1999 until 2014 were registered in more than 10 countries. So not even all European countries. And in South Asia alone, we estimate that there is over 1 million people that has very little access to antibiotics, especially for carbapenem resistance. Um, um, and so they don't have access to the appropriate treatments. And so GARDP is trying to tackle both things, access and development of new antibiotics. So what is the mission and vision of GARDP? So the vision is that all infections are treatable for everyone, everywhere, or at least they should be. And our mission is to accelerate the development and access of treatments for these drug-resistant bacterial infections. GARDP was created in 2016, so we are not even 10 years old. They were created by WHO and the Drugs for Neglected Diseases Initiative, DNDi, in 2016. Then in 2018, that I joined GARDP in 2018. That was when it was established as a Swiss foundation, so we were an independent entity at that point. And then a couple of years later was named by the Swiss government as an international foundation. And nowadays, GARDP is, as you know, a not-for-profit organization. We have about 100 people between Geneva and all strategic locations worldwide. In fact, in the last couple of years, most of the growth has been outside Switzerland and is just in different places. I will show a map afterwards. But just to mention that despite of being a very young organization, we have pioneered new antibiotic R&D. We also have used this partnership model, which is different. We have now a portfolio of antibiotics that target the WHO priority pathogens. We have also built a global network for R&D and access. Very important, last year we finished a phase 3 trial for an antibiotic that is targeting gonorrhea, and that was essentially, I would say, the first phase 3 trial that was sponsored by a not-for-profit in the antibiotic arena. Then we also have a big component on child and maternal health, and we are looking at neonatal sepsis. And until 2023, GARDP has raised about 126 million euros, mostly from government. So it's all public money. This is where we have people, or we share offices with DNDi. So we have in North America and Brazil, South Africa, Kenya, India, Japan, Korea. And we are also looking at other locations depending on the clinical trials that we're going to be running in the near future. So what is GARDP's role in tackling the antimicrobial resistant crisis? So this is just to give you an idea of the different actors working in either research, discovery, and preclinical, drug development, or the access part. So main actors, I would say, are CARB-X in the preclinical and up to phase 1. Of course, there is NIH, BARDA, the European Commissions that expand quite a bit of and also are funding a lot of the different projects, and especially small companies. There is a Repair Impact Fund, the AMR Action Fund, and also JPAMR which is mostly on the fundamental and discovery research. But as you see, GARP encompass very early discovery and preclinical, and also the late clinical development and the access. And we also have another initiative called Secure, which is still in a pilot phase, but the idea is there that it will be some kind of depot from antibiotics, where essentially we could guarantee access of antibiotics that are not even in the portfolio of GARP, but that are essential for the practice of medicine in places where they don't have access, like many places in Asia or sub-Saharan Africa, for example. What is the GARP's strategy to approach and counter AMR? I would say it's three main different angles. One is to focus on priority diseases and infections, meaning sepsis, hospital-acquired pneumonia, bloodstream infections, intra-abdominal infections, and also complicated urinary tract infections. Then focus also on WHO priority pathogens, and there was a list of pathogens that was updated now in 2024 from WHO. So we try to cover those pathogens with the assets we are partnering with, and also to work in key regions and in key populations, because as you know, a lot of the burden of AMR is not on the developing, on the high income countries, but in the low and medium income countries and specific regions where that's a very big problem. And also to try to look for populations that are normally neglected, especially in the case of neonates, for example, neonatal sepsis, or the pediatric development, because a lot of antibiotics, especially because they are being developed by very small companies, you have the requirement of do pediatric development, but sometimes it could take the small companies, I don't know, 8-10 years to finally get a pediatric indication for an antibiotic that is very, very needed on the pediatric side. So we try to also, with all the partners we have, to essentially accelerate the pediatric development. And again, the GARP model is integrating research and development and access, because we think that these are two sides of the coin, so you need to have them together. Then the other important thing with GARP is that GARP is not a funder. It's more like a partner. It's an equal partnership. And then what we normally have is agreements where if we said, okay, we're going to help with the development of this, or we are going to run the phase 2 or phase 3 trial for this particular asset, what we ask the companies in return is, okay, we want to have the rights for this antibiotic in X number of countries, especially low and medium income countries. And then depending on how we make the deal and when, it can vary. But I mean, in some of the cases we have, say, 135 countries. Of course, we are not going to be able to do that in all those 135 countries, but I mean, it gives us the opportunity to find other partners that will help with the access in those places where those antibiotics are really needed. Here, again, our programs, you can also divide them into the preclinical research, so discovery and exploratory research, then the drug development and access programs, where we have three main components. One is the serious bacterial infection and sepsis, the neonatal sepsis, and then the sexually transmitted infections. Then the other one is access to essential antibiotics that, as I mentioned before, not necessarily need to be part of those programs here. And this is an initiative together with WHO, and we are also having some other funding partners now for a pilot program that will help with a couple of antibiotics in several different countries. And then the other one is connecting the research and development community in the AMR, and that one is called Revive. And essentially, this is a website where I will explain that a little bit later, but essentially is to keep alive the knowledge on R&D and regulatory and all the disciplines related to antimicrobial resistance, because since a lot of the people who was working in this area has left, we try to keep engaged with those people that are either retiring or changing fields, that they can share the expertise they have, so that if somebody new coming into the field can consult these experts for free. We have webinars, etc. I will talk a little bit more about that, but it's a very successful and useful program. I'm going to start with the discovery and exploratory research. And here the idea from GARDP was that, I mean, the very early, like try to identify new targets or novel chemical classes and so on. It was very little being done on that side. And so that's where we decided to then engage in there. And then the idea is to bring this to some kind of maybe up to a candidate or lead optimization, and then partner with somebody else. And then if that progresses, then we could maybe pick it up again in late clinical development, whereas the area where GARDP concentrates in the late clinical development. And for that, then, for example, we had conversations with a lot of different pharmaceutical companies that had libraries that they had never screened for antibacterial activity. And then so we agree with them, let's do that, let's try to screen. Screening, again, is one of the things where you hardly find any funds to do that. But we managed then to screen 240,000 compounds and natural products on those libraries for activity against multi-drug resistant gram-negative bacteria, since these are the, call it, critical priority pathogens for WHO. We also have been exploring over 10 different series of novel chemical entities, and that has been very, very interesting. So to do that, we have a lot of different partners in a lot of different countries that have been helping with either in silico models, artificial intelligence tools, screening capabilities. And in fact, I will talk about one of these collaborations in a second, but essentially concentrating in small molecules. As I mentioned, we screen over 240,000, then natural products, extracts that have gram-negative activity, potentiators. We were looking there, for example, compounds that could potentiate the activity of aminoglycoside, which is one of the classes of antibiotics that are often used, especially in neonatal sepsis. Also, unrealized targets, so trying to find out novel targets, and so far the group have been looking at 7 priority targets and trying to find some hits there. And undeveloped agents, meaning compounds that were at some point developed but somehow abandoned by different reasons. I mean, as long as it was not a huge, say, an issue about acute toxicity issue, then we have tried to figure out, is there anything that can be done with this, or use them as a core to make derivatizations that maybe find something that is a bit better than those. And there have been quite a lot of publications on this lately. And in fact, I want to highlight this one here. There was part of the high throughput screening of the small library molecules from 3 or 4 different pharmaceutical companies from Japan, was done in collaboration with the Institute Pasteur Korea. And recently that publication came up this year. For there, yeah, we did a lot from, say, we had libraries from Takeda, Eisai, Daiichi Sankyo, and this is one of the examples where we were then screening. Sadly, from this one, nothing. I mean, there was no really a candidate that was a hit to lead, but at least, I mean, we got some good ideas there of maybe cores that can be used to try to figure out if there is anything that can be done with those. as you know, I mean, developing agents against gram-negative bacteria is very difficult. This is here when some of the GARDP people visited the Institute Pasteur Korea, and they were very instrumental in all the screening. So they were really a good partnership with GARDP. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about the drug development and access. And as I said before, we have that divided in three main areas. One is serious bacterial infections, the other one neonatal and sexually transmitted infections. In the case of the serious bacterial infections, we have a couple of assets. One is cefiderocol. This is a novel antibiotic that was approved a few years ago, also for carbapenem-resistant infections. And this is what we call an access asset, in the sense that I will explain that also is mostly about managing this compound to be accessible, and not only from the point of view of bringing it to different geographies, but also reducing dramatically the price, because at this point that particular antibiotic is extremely expensive. Then we have also another combination of a beta-lactam cefepime with a beta-lactamase inhibitor, taniborbactam, which has been a collaboration from GARDP for now 4 years. I will also update you on what's happening there. And we are also working now, we just closed a deal this year with a company called Bogworks, which is based in India, for a novel compound that is novel chemistry, novel target, very broad spectrum against all the gram-negative bacteria. And I will also mention that one. We keep looking for new treatments, and we have there a couple of things that we may start developing. One of them is an old aminoglycoside that was until now only used in veterinary medicine, but has very special and unique properties. In the case of neonates, we have some combination regimes, and I will speak a little bit about that. And then there is this antibiotic, which is also a novel class, soliflodacin, for gonorrhea infection, especially for these multi-drug resistant gonorrhea infections, where the current treatments are not working, especially in some places in Asia. Just to go a little bit more on the details. So as I said, this cefepime taniborbactam, we supported the successful completion of the pivotal phase 3 trial. Then in the case of cefiderocol, we have launched a project to manufacture and commercialize cefiderocol through sub-licenses. As I said, part of what GARDP is doing there is trying to make it a lot cheaper. So we have found a manufacturer in India that is gonna produce the antibiotic for all the GARDP territories. And the idea is that it's gonna be at least significantly cheaper than the one that is now being produced only in Japan. And in the case of this new compound from Bogworks I mentioned, we are also providing technical and financial support to co-develop, especially on formulation issues, to be able to complete the phase 1 of this compound. A very brief update on what's happening with this cefepime taniborbactam. So as I mentioned, since 4 years ago, we have working with them is against carbapenem-resistant pathogens. We had a successful trial, phase 3 trial. A new drug application was submitted. Sadly, that has been delayed because there is some critical manufacturing issues that need to be addressed. And we are working on that now. Hopefully that will be solved. But again, as you know, there is always some attrition. So it may happen that if the issues don't get resolved, that's just going to be a difficult one. Bogworks, as I mentioned, is a collaboration agreement with a small company here in India, Bogworks, and that one also is an innovative compound, very broad spectrum. And at this stage, we are trying to just help with the formulation so that the phase 1 can be completed. In the neonatal sepsis case, what we did there was as you know, I mean, in the case of neonates, there is a treatment that is recommended by WHO, which is ampicillin plus gentamicin. That's not working almost anywhere in the world anymore. And so the idea we had was what is out there that may work still, especially in combinations. And it already has a neonatal indication because we know that to get a neonatal indication takes years. So, and the idea was then to look for those compounds. We found 3 different old antibiotics that had neonatal indications. One is called Flomoxef, is a cephalosporin, uh, only available right now in China, Japan, Korea, and Taiwan, but it has excellent activity. Fosfomycin is also a very old antibiotic, and amikacin is also an old aminoglycoside. But we did a lot of preclinical models and found out that combination of 2 of those 3 are synergistic, and then the spectrum of coverage improves tremendously, and you also dampen the emergence of resistance. And so we are using those combinations to in a trial that is going to start now, called is a global trial called NeoCep1, that is also an innovative design. It's not a trial where you compare, say, A versus B, but it's a trial where you have maybe 6 or 7 different arms, and you compare all the arms against each other. And so at the end of the day, you can rank these treatments. And this is important because the epidemiology is different in different regions. So you're not going to find a magic bullet that works everywhere. So it could be that in a region, a particular combination is better than others. And in this way, you can rank them by safety and efficacy. And that's what we are trying to do. So this trial is already ongoing. We have already recruited the first part of the trial, which recruited 65 neonates, especially in South Africa and Kenya. And this was to find out, to establish modern PK, because all these antibiotics, have been approved in the 80s or before. So there was not current recent PK being generated. So we did that. Also look at the safety of the combinations. It really passed well. And now we are in the way of enrolling about 3,000 newborns in about 10 different countries. It will take a little while, but we think that that will probably result in recommendations for WHO suggesting treatments that definitely work better than the current treatment, which is not working. Before that, what we did was also have an observational study in neonates and babies with sepsis, where we recruited 3,200 newborns in 11 countries, and also having the strains that we isolated from those, we identified the 3 promising antibiotics, again, as a very good targets or candidates for that. In the sexually transmitted infections, I mentioned we have this soliflodacin compound. We sponsor and we were responsible to run the phase 3 clinical trial. We recruited about 1,000 patients in 5 countries. And in November 2023, we announced the positive results for the phase 3 trial. This was, I would say, the first successful gonorrhea trial in quite a bit time.
Wow.
Because the 2 previous trials failed because they didn't meet the endpoints. And is interesting that this one was run by a not-for-profit, and we met the endpoints. So the submission of the new drug application is expected to happen at the beginning of next year. And hopefully the approval will happen about 6 months after submission. What I mentioned about cefiderocol, this was a technology transfer agreement we got from Shinogi, which is the discoverer of cefiderocol, licenses for 135 countries, which is about half of the world population. And now we have an agreement with Orchid Pharma in India. They are building a whole new production line for this antibiotic, and we will hopefully get it approved. And and already have access to it in India and other GARDP territories by 2027. And then I want to finish with Revive, which is this educational platform I was mentioning before. This was launched in 2018, essentially to ensure that the knowledge somehow was retained in some place, and also to try to connect, share, and acquire information for the people who was working on the field. As I mentioned before, as many companies are leaving the field, many researchers have gone into oncology or more, say, profitable areas for those companies, but they still, I don't know, people who works on antibacterials, their hearts somehow remain there for a while. So we try to engage them and have them available to be essentially consultants for people who is new in the field or that have a particular issue, and they essentially donate their time to Revive. Going the wrong way. So essentially, they have three goals. One is facilitate learning, and there is an open access and webinars by international experts that happen with regularity. They are completely free. You can join, they get recorded, and you can watch them afterwards if you cannot watch them the day they are run. Then there is also a virtual conference that we organize, which is called Antimicrobial Chemotherapy Conference. We organize that with the British Society for Antimicrobial Chemotherapy. And there is also workshops we organize and symposia. As I mentioned, then we have the connecting with all the experts. We also have viewpoints, articles that get published there. And we also have been working in something called the Antimicrobial Encyclopedia. This is essentially defining all the terms or different things, like, for example, defining what PKPD is or what percentage of target attainment means. So they have definitions there, they have links. In some cases, you have even a small video of one of the experts explaining the term, and I think they are very useful for somebody who wants to maybe find out something that they need to know, and they are looking for a good definition. So we have at this point 173 Revive experts. That the page is visited by about 24,000 people every month. And we have had about 14,000 participants in the webinars. In the map here in blue is all the countries where the people has joined the Revive seminar. So I would say it's a good coverage. And it's also interesting that we have a lot of participants from Latin America, Sub-Saharan Africa, and of course, Asia. And all of that can be found here at revivegarp.org. These are a sampling of the webinars we have had. You see all kind of topics from delivery systems, antimicrobial drug discovery, animal models, target candidate profiles, etc. This is the next one that is going to happen on December 3rd. It's going to be implementation research for the appropriate use and access to antimicrobials as part of the whole access side of GARDP. And as I mentioned, we have this Revive expert network. We have 173 people there. We have experts that contribute regularly to the development of the content. We also have some that supports activities. And we have they coming from 26 different countries all over. This is the encyclopedia I mentioned before. So you have a definition, you have more information, you have a tag. In some cases, you have a video, and I would say it's a very neat resource for somebody who is new in the field. It's very, very helpful. And last but not least, that's the conference we are organizing. It's going to be 4th and 5th of February of 2025, the Antimicrobial Chemotherapy Conference. Every year we try to organize it with emphasis in one particular region. This year is South America, so we have a collaboration from Fiocruz in Brazil and also from the Antimicrobial Resistance Center in Sao Paulo. Here it says that the abstract submission closes on the 15th of November, but they told me today the submission will be extended. So in case any of you wants to participate, you can also find in this address here, accconference.com, for example, the program from last year has some really interesting topics for people who is working on antimicrobial resistance. And then just to finish this is most of the people who makes this possible. Is mostly governments. This year we did get a small contribution from JSK for the social responsibility arm of JSK. But the rest is South Korea, Japan, the UK, Germany. Germany is the main funder, I have to say. Also some money from Switzerland, the Wellcome Trust, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and EDCTP. And that's it. So